Welcome to this session on customer communication. This session that we are going to split into 3 different modules is going to cover various aspects related to communicating with the customer. We are going to talk about face-to-face communication. We are going to talk about written communication. We are going to talk about interactions and verbal communications. At the end of it, summarize and try to understand, has your communication to the customer been effective? So let's try and understand what is the process of a clear and effective communication. Communication is never a one-way process. You are standing in front of an audience, you're standing in front of a customer, or you're in a meeting. It has to be a mutual exchange of information. So it's very important that the communication that is done is engaging, and it is a bilateral two-way exchange of information. It has to be clear, it has to be concise. It has to build upon conversations. So as you speak, interact with the customer, gauge what they have to say in mind, and to gauge what the customer has to say, listening is extremely important. Active listening is a critical part of communication. So once you start the dialogue, listen to the customer, pause, reflect, think, and then frame your next sentence, the communication process and exchange of ideas become far more effective. So let's look at some key elements on how do we create effective communication in general. The first thing is tone that you use to deliver. The tone has to be very clear. The tone should be in such a way that it doesn't cause confusion in the mind of the listener. Clear, properly constructed sentences has to be used. You have to be grammatically correct in general. Postures are important, so use your hand, use your eyes, use your face, try and deliver the words that you use with the power of your body language and gesture. The rate at which you speak. If you speak very fast, basically probably depicts that thoughts are confusing. If you speak too slow, it might imply that you're not really interested in the topic, and so you're deliberately slowing down the conversation. These are the key things that you have to keep in mind. Tone of speech, the rate at which you speak, and effective use of the body language and gestures, facial gestures. So let's take a look at some of the guiding principles that one should follow when we're hosting a meeting with a customer. Meetings in general are a serious affair. So meetings obviously has to have a defined timeline. Meeting has to be preceded with an agenda that must be circulated to the recipients of the meeting. Ideally, ahead, a couple of days ahead of when the meeting is held. Now, meetings being a serious affair, it is important that you stick to the time. So it should begin on time. All the participants should ensure that meetings start on time. And time is important, so one must respect other people's time. So it's important that meeting ends at the designated time. Proper communication, effective communication, as what we had emphasized earlier, is critical for the proper flow of information. Meeting is serious, it's a serious affair, but that does not mean that you do not throw in subtle humor. So as possible, within the freedom of the defined framework of the participants, it is perfectly fine to bring in subtle humor. Subtle humor can lead to informal exchanges of information, and often informal exchanges of information can lead to better conversation and better communication.